Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. We'd like to welcome you all to week 12. After a 3-week hiatus we had in the gap classes, part of it because I was traveling and part of it, things happen. So, but mashallah, so we're going to get back in the groove. Welcome everyone joining. So just to get a refresher, inshallah, before we continue, the last class we had, we covered points 51 through 56. And so today, inshallah, we'll cover points 57 through 60. But just to, get us back abreast on the class, inshallah, I would like for us to read from the beginning of the text, inshallah ta'ala. So I don't know, Brother Eats, if you want to read or you want me to do it.
Yeah, I can read.
Okay.
Just that my translation might be a little different.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
We'll read up to line 56.
Okay. Line 1. All praise is for Allah, for His blessings and His peace and blessings be upon a prophet who came with divine unity. He came with this message when religion had lost divine unity. He guided creation to the true religion with his sword and guiding to the truth. Muhammad SAW, the final messenger of his Lord, and his family, companions, and followers. To proceed, knowledge of the fundamentals of religion is personally obligatory and requires exposition. However, due to the length of the large works of this science, people's resolve has weakened. In this poem I have called The Precious Jewel of Divine Oneness, and I have refined it. It is Allah whose acceptance I seek, and for Him to make it beneficial to anyone who is avid for reward. It is legally obligatory on every morally responsible to know, to everyone morally responsible to know what is necessary for Allah and the possible and an impossible, and the like of this for Allah's messengers. So listen up. Because anyone who bases their faith on mere following, their faith is not bereft of doubt. Some theologians have even mentioned a difference of opinion regarding their belief, while others confirmed and clarified this saying. If they are firm in their belief, this is sufficient. Otherwise, they remain in harm. And know well with no doubt that the first of all obligations is to know Allah, and regarding this, there is disagreement on the details. So contemplate about your very self, then about the higher and lower worlds. You will find therein creation of marvel and wisdom, yet within it is proof of its non-existence. Anything for which non-existence is possible cannot possibly be eternal. And faith is explained as being confirmation, and there is a difference of opinion about pronouncing it. It is said to be a condition that pronouncing the statement of faith, or to be a condition along with works, while others affirm that it is an essential element. One's Islam is manifest through one's works, such as Hajj, prayer, fasting, and zakat. So understand, the increasing of faith is affirmed and it increases through all acts of obedience. And faith is lessened by lessening one's acts of obedience though others disagree. Yet others reportedly deny disagreement on this. Being is necessary for him. Beginninglessness and likewise endlessness unaffected by non-being. And he is distinct from all things given to non-being. The proof of this is the proof of being beginninglessness. His self-subsistence and oneness transcendent are his noble attributes. Allah is transcendent beyond having an opposite or another like Allah, partner, or having a father or a son or friends. Power and will are distinct from his command, and knowledge and good pleasure has been affirmed. as has been affirmed. And his knowledge and it is not said that it is acquired. So follow the way of truth and leave doubts. His life and likewise his speech and hearing, as has been established by transmission. Does he have cognition or not? There is a difference of opinion, and scholars have affirmed, we neither affirm nor negate it and its cognition. Living, hearing, powerful, willing, hearing what he wills, and speaking. The essential attributes are neither other than the entity nor the entity itself. So power relates to all possible things without any limits to that which it relates to. So affirm oneness for the power of Allah, and likewise for his will and knowledge, though the latter is wider in what it relates to, for it relates to the necessary and impossible as well. Allah's speech also relates to the necessary, possible, and impossible. So let us follow. And the hearing and seeing of Allah relates to everything existent, and likewise discernment if affirmed. And hearing and seeing are different from knowledge. As for life, it does not relate to anything. Our position is that the tremendous names of Allah and his personal attributes are beginninglessly eternal. It has been chosen that his names are only divinely established, likewise his attributes, so memorize this. Every text that would appear to imply similitude, interpret it or cosign, and always affirm transcendence. Affirm that the Quran is transcendent beyond createdness, and beware of Allah's punishment. And every text that will seem to indicate createdness, we understand it within the context that it is talking about. The opposite of these attributes are impossible for Allah, such as him having a direction. Anything that is possible for Allah Most High, and bring it into being and bring it out of being, such as it's making someone rich. Allah is the creator of the human being and his actions, giving success to any for whom he wishes to draw close, and abasing the one for whom Allah has willed to be far from Allah, whether by disbelief or relatively distant by being a sinful believer, and fulfilling for those he wills his promise. The success of felicity is from beginningless eternality, and likewise the one of perdition, and these will not change. And according to us, the human is morally responsible through acquisition without having any effect in that which they do so understand. So he is not forced without will, rather he has choice. However, not all of their actions are with their choice. So if he rewards us, it is by his mere generosity, and if he punishes, it is solely by his justice. Where am I stopping? That's line 50. You got yours on mute.
Oh, my apologies. Line 56. That was line 50.
And for their saying that it is necessary for Allah to do that which is best, it is a despicable lie. There is nothing obligatory upon Allah. Have they not seen his giving pain to children? So beware of absurdity and the like of this. It is possible for Allah to create the evil and the good, such as Islam and ignorant disbelief. It is obligatory for us to believe in destiny and determining as has been established in the primary text. And from the possible, it is for him to be seen with eyesight, however, without how and without encompassing. This beholding occurs in the hereafter for the believers because it was made conditional on something possible. And with this, it occurred to the chosen one in this life. That was 56.
Yeah, that was it. Alhamdulillah. Shukran, brother. Alhamdulillah. So I had Brother Isa read from the beginning up into the current line that we are at. So just to give us a refresher. And then not next week, because we have an event in Washington, D.C. that we're going to be at. So next week I won't have a class, but then the week after, we'll come back and review from lines 51 to the ones we cover now, 51 to 60. But we're going to go over 57 to 60 today. lines 57 through 60, inshallah. Shake some of the rust off. You know, we had like a 3-week break. How is everyone's,
Alhamdulillah.
Good, alhamdulillah. Can you hear me or no?
Yeah, okay, it's good to see
okay.
everybody. Okay, let me get the where we starting at? Give me a second. Okay, let me get this thing up real quick. Okay, let me get this. That problem with the screen. All right. Okay. Okay, can you all see that? Not yet. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start at line 57, inshallah. And line 57 says, وَمِنْهُ إِرْسَالُ جَمِيعِ الرُّسُلِ فَلَا وُجُوبَ بَلْ بِمَحْدِ الْفَضْلِ. And from it is the sending of all the messengers without it being necessary, rather from his sheer favor. What's the translation, Brother Isa, that you have, if you don't mind me asking, for line 57?
It says, and from the possible for Allah is sending the messengers. This is not obligatory upon Allah, but rather it is from his mere generosity.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so we'll discuss this line in a little detail. So we all know the backdrop of this book is establishing the beliefs of the Asharis and the Maturidis, right, which is the belief of al-Sunnah. But in particular, when we think about these arguments, what is the backdrop of them? What's the main focus? Anybody want to take a stab at it?
I'm sorry. Can you ask the question one more time? I was talking to the girl.
When we read about these points about the creed of the Asharis and the Maturidis, we read it as a codified system. But what's the backdrop of these points that the author is going over and explaining and elucidating?
For teaching?
Yeah, for teaching, but in response. It's a lot of it is response.
Oh, okay.
And in response to who?
To the deviant sects.
Yeah, which one in particular?
Mu'tazila.
Yeah, the Mu'tazila.
That's what I was saying with Mu'tazila.
Yeah. So this is important to keep in mind, because many times people will bring up arguments and points that are contained in the Ashari and Maturidi schools, and they don't know the backdrop or what's the context of it. So many times these arguments are, to begin with, as a refutation of those deviant movements and even other disbelieving groups that a couple of them we're going to cover today, and some of the things that they try to promote as the truest Islam. And so that's very important to keep in mind, because some of the arguments, they are relative to that time, because what you have had, or you do have, people may learn Arabic and go into the books of the Asharis and Maturidis and try to extract some things to prove a point while bypassing the whole process. You know what I'm saying? So see, the Asharis say this, but what is it? What are they saying in context and in response to what has been said? So you see a lot of this argument, as Imam al-Laqqani rahimahullah mentioned in the early part, that he had to take this and make it a mukhtasar, because people have, got tired of doing these in-depth arguments. And it's the same thing as today. Why we got to talk about Aqidah all the time? Aqidah divides us. No, clarification is a must throughout the ages, And so this is why scholars have put so much time and effort to do it. All right, so I just wanted to throw that in there. All right, so line 57, here we have a theme switch. And so Imam al-Laqqani, up until this point, he talked about, what is necessary, what is possible, and what is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and clarifying the beliefs of what we believe about Allah, and encountering some of the notions that the deviant groups have put forth. So just as a review real quick, we mentioned the Mu'tazila, and there are two other groups that we mentioned that were counted in the beliefs about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Tawarij?
No, not the Khawarij.
You said it's two other deviant groups?
At least two others that we mentioned thus far.
Can I give a description of them?
Yeah, yes.
So is it the ones that say that because of Allah's predetermined qadr, because of predestination, it's kind of like
that we don't have
describe it.
free
Yeah, that
will,
you
that
don't.
we're compelled.
Yeah.
So it removes us of responsibility. Yes, that's the description. And anybody remember the name?
The Qadariya.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's not the one she mentioned, but the Qadariya is one, and the one that she
Jabariya.
Jabariya. Yeah, the Jabariya is the one she
Jabariya. Okay.
The Jabariya is the ones who say that if everything is predetermined, then we don't have any free will, so we're compelled to do anything. So why do any good, And the Qadariya also believed, they didn't believe in destiny, and the Mu'tazila believed that, that we have free will independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. Okay, so here the theme switch is going to the concept of nubuwwat. And so this is the second in the series that we believe with transmitted beliefs. What are the other two? When we talk about Aqidah, there are three categories.
Ilahiyat.
Ilahiyat, which means
It's the lordship.
Lordship or godhood, they translate it as, yes.
And then Samiyat.
Samiyat, yeah, transmitted beliefs that we will not know except that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about them. And those are things about the, things of the hereafter, like the descriptions of paradise, hell, the pond, the sirat, all of those things are part of the Samiyat. The nubuwwat is about the prophets and messengers and everything that we need to know about them, what is necessary, possible, and impossible for them. And of course, ilahiyat is the theme of godhood or lordship and everything that we need to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, good. So now in this section, he's addressing Imam al-Laqqani, three schools of thought concerning the sending of the messengers. There are those who say it is impossible, those who say it is necessary, and those who say it is possible. All right, so we'll cover each three of those, inshallah. All right, so who are they and what do they say? Who are these people that say what they say? So the first ones who say that it is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send these messengers and prophets are the Barahima, or the Hindu Brahmins, and the Sumaniya, the Buddhists. So they say that sending of the messengers is a defect, and they say that man's intellect is sufficient to determining good and bad. So meaning that they're saying that we don't need to have messengers and guides, and that it is impossible for it to be a necessity because we are supposed to be able to think our way through about what's right and wrong. This is the belief that they had. All right.
I'm sorry to cut, but what's interesting about that, I read about them because it's also a caste system for
Right.
Hindus. Like it's one of their upper caste systems.
Yeah.
Because I got a couple docs who this is their religion.
Mm-hmm. And then you think about it. Now, those people, you think how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested them, that they think that the intellect is sufficient, and as such, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them relying on it, that they're like super smart people, but when it comes to belief, they don't got it. Because then those people like mathematicians and doctors and all that, like it's almost like a given, And the Buddhists, so they say that basically there is no need for a messenger, and so it is it's like impossible, like for Allah, like what need would it be? So it's like, this is not necessary. Right. All right. Then the next group says that it's necessary, and that is the Mu'tazila and the Falasifa, or the rationalists, or the philosophers. And so the Mu'tazila, they used to believe that Allah is obligated to do what is best for the creation. And so it was a concept called Salah wal Islah, that meaning that Allah, and we covered this in one of the classes, that Allah created everything, so it is obligatory for him to do what is best for the creation. And if Allah doesn't do what is best for the creation, then this is an injustice on Allah's part. So in other words, whatever happens, we talked about this, that if evil happens, then Allah is to blame, basically what they used to say, right? So if Allah, and then the rationalists believe in this concept called causality and naturalism, that if this world is in existence, and then it is necessary that it has some type of guidance, right? And on the surface, that makes sense, but they're saying that it has to be like that. Like it makes sense that that's the natural, cause and effect. If you have all of this with this format and this creation and this order, then it only makes sense that you have what comes next, which would be guidance. And so it has to be that way, and that's what they believe. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. And so we compare that. So these are the three groups or four groups that Imam al-Laqqani is addressing, because this was like, something that was prominent in the early times and also during his time. And so now we talk about what is the belief, the correct belief, or the belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right? And so the correct belief is that sending of the prophets are from the jaizat, or the possibilities. And there is no obligation upon him whatsoever, and it is out of sheer grace. So that's what he said in this line, that it is not an obligation for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send them, but because he sent them with guidance, he did it out of his grace and mercy to his creation to show them. So he didn't just leave us here and figure it out, and that's what kind of, by extension, that's what the Buddhists and the Brahmin people believe. Like, we're just here to figure it out on our own. So, if we get it right, it's on our own merit, that kind of thing. And so here's a proof from the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if not for the favor of Allah upon you and his mercy, you would have been among the losers. And this is Surah Baqarah ayah 64. So here it's saying that the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the reason why he sent messengers. He was not obligated to do so, but he did so, just to show us the guidance and how to live the law, and how to interact, and how to, deal with life on life's terms, is by the way of guidance through the prophets and messengers. All right, is that clear? So in other words, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that he sent guidance through the messengers, it was not an obligation for him to do so, and it was not necessary to do so, and it wasn't impossible that that it wasn't a defect on Allah's part, that's what some of the Buddhists used to believe. There was a defect on Allah's part, like we don't need they call them intermediaries. We don't need those kind of people to get close to God. And so you see this even now, that people don't believe they have to go through a religion, or they don't have to believe in prophets, or they don't have to believe in someone to show them. They can just do it on their own. And so with these people, the Barahim, or the Brahmins, and Sumaniya and Falasifa, they are considered disbelievers. And the Mu'tazila, as much as we are refuting them, Ahl Sunnah, they are considered innovators in belief. And something else to consider, it was the people who had the innovations in belief are the ones who were to be boycotted and stuff like that. So I don't know if any of you remember, but definitely my wife and I remember, the early times when we were with the Salafi / Wahhabis, it was always this talk about innovation. And they used to mix these terms up and not making a distinction between people who innovate in belief and then people who do practices without a precedence, and there's a world of difference between those. So the ones who innovated in belief, like the Mu'tazila and the Jabariya and the Karamiya and all of those kind of people, those are the people that you're harsh against them, and you don't give them salam and don't attend their janazah prayers that you read about the scholars of Ahl Sunnah have mentioned about them. But not a person who, how they say a person, these people who misinterpret this thing, saying someone is praying sadr like the Malikis, that's an innovation in worship, so they won't give you salam, and all this nonsense. Or if you're doing group dhikr and things that they consider innovation, and all of this nonsense. So, and that's a part of being denied the tradition being passed down. So, but that's when we talk about innovators, to rightly call people innovators. And now they don't say innovator, they say a person is upon innovation, or what they say, a sahib al-bid'ah, a companion of bid'ah. Right? So that means us, whoever's not like them, they're people of bid'ah, right? And you all in our area, you hear it all the time. That's bid'ah. Yeah, so, but we should just kind of know that, inshallah. All right, so any questions about this?
No.
No.
All right, yeah, let's go to the next slide.
I have a quick question. As far as I know with the how do you say it properly, the Brahim? I know that the Barahim, that practice is still prominent in a lot of countries. But as far as the Mu'tazila, do you still find a lot of those groups nowadays or no?
No, they pretty much died out. But once you know some of their beliefs, then you see how some groups now
have mixed in with something different.
Yeah, they kind of adopted some of those beliefs, but not as a system, So it's important to know when you hear some of these things that people do, and you see it in different people, they will have some of these beliefs of the rationalists or the Mu'tazila, or people having this modern view of Islam, and having this apologetic view of Islam, and if something doesn't if it doesn't in line of their mode of thinking, they're kind of put it under the rug, or trying to find a way to get around it. So you'll see remnants of it, but I don't know of any place where they're people who follow the Mu'tazila doctrine, and even still, there was some scholars who Imam Zamakhshari, who was a great scholar in tafsir in Arabic language, that he was a Mu'tazili. He was a Mu'tazili, he used to defend the Mu'tazila doctrine. And so that would be an innovative concept and belief, but not that we don't throw away his tafsir. So, yeah, so I don't know of any groups. I mean, I heard people say about it, there's a Mu'tazila movement somewhere, but I've never heard of them. Not to the point where they're somebody significant, All right, I don't know if that answered the question or not. Hello?
Answered it. Yep.
Okay. All right, so to the next line is line 58. And so here, Imam al-Laqqani, he says, Lakin bidha imanuna wajaba fada'aha qawman bihim qad la'iba. And so he said, however, it is compulsory for us to believe in this. So leave the inclinations of a people whom their inclinations have played around with. What's the translation that you have, Brother Isa? I won't do this to you every week. I just as you were reading it earlier, I kind of like that translation that you have.
Yeah, he has a good translation.
It says,
Yeah.
however, it is obligatory for us to believe in the messengers. So leave the vain desires of those whose vain desires have deluded them.
Okay. All right. So we'll discuss this line, inshallah. Okay. So what he means here is that now he talks about what is wajib, or what is necessary. And so after establishing the possibility of sending the prophets and the messengers, so meaning that, continuing from the last line, it was not an impossible like the Brahmins and the Buddhists said, nor was it necessary like the Mu'tazila and the philosophers or the rationalists, not those. So it's a possibility out of Allah's grace and favor, His sheer favor to us, right? And after we establish that, now that we know that it's possible and not necessary or impossible for the messengers to be sent, now that we know that they've been sent out of Allah's grace, now it is wajib to believe in them. It is obligatory, right? So we have a hadith that's in the Musnad of Imam Ahmed. It says that there are 124,000 prophets and approximately 315 messengers. And this is one narration that gives the number, but the strongest opinion is that the number is unknown, that the actual number is unknown, but this is an approximate. And you all have heard this number before, right?
Yes.
You may have heard like over 120,000 prophets. And going back to Risala to Jamia, what's the difference between a prophet and a messenger?
A prophet is a prophet does not they don't have a message to give or a scripture. And well, I shouldn't even say that because Nuh alayhi salam was a messenger too. So they weren't required to spread a message or to spread some. Whereas the messenger, they have prophethood, but they also have rasulship. If that makes sense.
And so, what's the line that we used before? If you all remember, I know it's quite a while ago.
No, I'm trying to remember it. That's why I was saying all of that stuff.
Every messenger is a prophet, but not every prophet is a messenger.
Yeah.
Yes. So, alhamdulillah. So for a person to be a messenger, they have to be a prophet as well. But every prophet is not necessarily charged with tabligh or conveying the message. All right. So yes. And so this is from a hadith, and then we have a proof from the Quran where Allah says in Surah Ghafir, ayah 78, and we have already sent messengers before you, meaning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Among them are those whose stories we have related to you, and among them are those whose stories we have not related to you. So that just shows that that's in like a very unknown number. All right. And so, but it's wajib for us, for the ones that we know, the stories we've heard, the ones we don't know, the ones who have been related and not been related, it is an obligation for us to believe in all of them, even if we're not aware of their nubuwwat and their risala. All right. Nubuwwat means their prophethood, and risala means their messenger, conveying the message. All right. Go to the next slide. So what is known? So we understand that it was Allah's from His mercy and grace that He sent the messengers. It was not required upon them, but it was a possibility that we now know is what, because one of the arguments of the philosopher that, so if this existed in the eternal tablet, then it was necessary for it to happen, right? But we know when we talk about the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the qadar, and then you have the qadr, and then you have what's irada. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what he has written in eternal tablet comes by way of the qadr, that he brings it to existence from non-existence, and then he determines how everything wills and happens by his irada. So when they say that it was necessary for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so, then they are undermining his attributes of qudra and irada, So Allah does what he wills, and he determines what he wills. All right. So what is known about these prophets and messengers is that there are 25 who are mentioned by name in the Quran. And so how many can you all name? You want to take a stab at it? Nobody want to take a stab at it?
Wait, can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I said there are 25 prophets out of all of those 124,000 prophets and approximately 315 messengers. There are 25 prominent ones that are mentioned in the Quran by name. Can you name any of them? How many can you name?
Sounds like name that tune. Prophet David alayhi salam.
Mm-hmm.
Prophet Yusuf.
Yusuf. Uh-huh.
Prophet Musa alayhi salam.
Mm-hmm.
Prophet not Zachariah. That's a nope.
Yeah.
Isa alayhi salam.
Uh-huh. You said Zachariah?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Prophet Suleiman.
Uh-huh.
Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam.
Mm-hmm.
Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam.
Mm-hmm.
Prophet Ishaq.
Mm-hmm.
Ismail alayhi salam. Was he a prophet? Wait, I know Ishaq and Ismail. I don't think he was named. He wasn't named. Okay, so if I say like, I know a couple. You mean name by name? Because I know like Samuel was named. He wasn't specifically named, but there was like the whatever he was associated with was there, but I don't think that he was named. So,
Okay.
how many is that?
I count like 9 or 10.
Okay. Harun, Lisa?
How long?
Let's see. Why am I not remembering? Nuh alayhi salam.
Mm-hmm.
Zulkarnain was not a messenger. It was just I'm trying to think. Job. No. Yes.
Oh,
Job.
you saying it like you're not sure.
I mean Job. Yes, he was.
What's his Arabic name?
I'm sorry, Ayub.
Ayub.
Yes, Ayub. And I know that's
Okay. That was pretty good. I'm gonna get the other two to see if they want to take a stab at it or not.
okay.
Okay. Nabi Hud alayhi salam, Nabi Salih alayhi salam, Nabi Shuaib alayhi salam, Nabi Yunus alayhi salam. She didn't mention Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
No, I didn't let her finish. I was just trying to see if you all you didn't have to do it. I'm just just trying to jog our memories. Go ahead. You got 5 so far.
Um,
Sister Khadija, I think you might have had like about 15.
Okay. Alhamdulillah.
That was good.
Dhul Kifl alayhi salam.
Now you had time to Google it. Plus, I can't see you. I don't know, man.
Now be how you say Elias?
Elias or Elias?
Yeah,
Elias.
yeah.
And I gave you one.
Elias.
Was Joshua? Joshua? No.
Yeah, this Elias.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not taking yours, Brother Isa.
She says.
Okay. You good there? You got 8.
Yeah, that's all. It's coming to me right now.
All right. Don't worry about it. Okay, good. That was good. Okay, sweetie, you want to take a stab at it?
Sorry, I was going over something with the girl. I'm doing 2 things. Sorry.
Okay.
No,
So
I'm sorry.
You don't want to take a stab at it?
No, because I was just listening.
All right, no worries.
Sorry.
Okay, so, I want to challenge us for a task, so we have 2 weeks to do it, to be able to name all 25 from memory. So the next time we come to class, is that a fair shot?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right, so now this is a trivia question. 4 of them are mentioned in the Quran, and that there are different opinions concerning them. Can you name the 4? I'll give you a start. That Sister Khadija already said. Dhul Qarnayn is one.
Would it be Khidr?
Khidr is another one. Dhul Qarnayn.
I would just be guessing. I can only think of Dhul Qarnayn and Khidr.
Okay.
I heard.
Anybody?
I read that it was an opinion about Maryam. May Allah be pleased with her.
Yeah, that's a big argument. I didn't really want to cover in this class, but about the prophethood being with women. So there's a big argument and legitimate arguments about it being a possibility, But Maryam, and then most of the views is that the prophets are males. I didn't want to get into that discussion here, but that is a legitimate argument. But the other 2 I was looking for is Uzair. Uzair is another one. There's a dispute, but he's not one. There's an argument, a different opinion, but he's not one. And one more. Many of us who should have heard about this one.
Luqman.
Luqman, yes, nah. So Luqman is the wise. Those are names that are mentioned, but different opinions, but they are not considered prophets, right? Alhamdulillah. Good.
So wait.
Good.
I thought Luqman was no.
No, some say that he was.
Because I know some people refer to him when they say his name. They say the Prophet Luqman. Right.
They might be going with an opinion that might not be well established, So some of the arguments that said that Luqman, that he was like a faqih during the time of Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, and then when Prophet Dawood came, he kind of like, he gave preference to Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. That's one of the arguments, but we just go with the ones that are mentioned that are, that is known as for the prophets,
So it's the argument because they're mentioned in the Quran.
Yes, the argument is because they're mentioned in the Quran by name. So, and of course, that's above our pay grade. All right, two of them are mentioned in one surah.
I know Luqman is, right?
No,
He's mentioned in Surah Luqman.
no, one surah is named after him. But two of these people that is different about are mentioned in one surah. In the same.
Name and Twitter.
Yeah, Dhul-Qarnayn and Khidr mentioned in Surah Tukat. Okay, and Luqman has his own, the name, a surah is named after him. And then Uzair, where is he mentioned at?
Is it Ali Imran or Bakr, one of those?
I don't remember being in there. I remember somewhere else.
Early story. One of the early stories.
But he what was his contribution, if you will, like?
What was his contribution?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, some of the things that they believed about him. I'm not sure what his contribution was.
Okay.
But
Meaning, like, you know how,
huh?
like, I was saying, because, you know, like with the prophet, like any of the prophets or any of the alayhi salam, or anybody who may be considered like they have done, they were mentioned.
Yeah, well, I know from Uzair that the Yahoo considered him a son of Allah. Yeah, so I don't really know what his contribution was, except maybe that they saw him as a righteous person. And I think Isa, you might be right. It's either Bakr or Ali Imran. I had to go back, but I remember reading this sort of Tawbah for some reason.
So I have a question with Uzair. Is he mentioned? You said he lived during the time of Musa alayhi salam?
No, I didn't.
Or after that?
I'm not sure.
You said the Jews consider him.
Yeah, but
would
I
that
don't.
Be,
but the Yahoo
okay.
have, you know, they were sent. You know, all of those prophets were sent to them, so it could have been anywhere within there. So we had to research that one. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then in this line, 58, Imam al-Laqqani mentions about the people who follow their hawa, when they said that they are, you know, they're following their desires. On hawa means an inclination toward that which is opposed as truth, or to fall, or to be misguided, or to follow one's whims and desires. And so he said that's what these people who have done, like the Mu'tazila and the other groups, when they didn't believe about the possibility of the sending of the messengers being a possibility, and then also not believing in all of these prophets and messages that have come, whether they were known or unknown. And here is a proof from the Quran where Allah says, "And do not follow your desire, as it will lead you astray." Did I stop sharing it? Oh, I'm still sharing it. Did that come up? Wait a minute. Okay. And do not follow your desire, as it will lead you astray from the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another quick trivia question. Can you think of another ayah in the Quran that talks about the hawa and what does it relate to a person? I'm looking for one specific ayah. Just give it a go. You know, there's no right or wrong answer.
Is one talking about people that take their desires as their gods?
Yes, and that's a sort of Furqan. I think it's ayat 58 or something like that. But the ayah says, told the prophet, "Have you seen the one who was taken as their ilaha, their hawa? Can you be responsible for them?" You know, so a person who, you know, listens to their desires, think that they're right, you know, they don't want to hear anything else, rejecting the truth. These people, it's very hard to guide them, and these people exist. You know, in our time, people is hard headed. You know, they think what they think is right, and everybody else is wrong. You know. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. All right, so two more lines we'll cover, inshallah, before we conclude. So line 59, Imam al-Laqqani mentions, وَوَاجِبٌ فِي حَقِّهِمُ الْأَمَانَةِ وَصِدْقُهُمْ وَدِفْ لَهُ الْفَتَانَةِ. He said, honesty is necessary in relations to them, as well as truthfulness, and add to it sagacity. So what's the translation you have, Brother Isa? I won't ask you after today. I was just, like I said, when you were reading it, man, it was like, I like the way it was flowing.
No problem. It is obligatory for them to be trustworthy, true, and intelligent.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to the next line. So here, he's talking about the nubuwwat. We're talking about the prophethood, and now we're talking about the attributes of the prophets. And so the attributes of the prophets are in line with the same way we believe about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of them are wajib, some of them are possible, jaiz, and some are impossible. All right, so this is the same thing we believe about the prophets, like we believe about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, and so three are mentioned here. He says amana, which is he translated as honesty, sidq, truthfulness, and fatana, which is he put sagacity, but intelligence. All right, so we're gonna cover these three real quick. So the first one he used to translate in the translation I have is honesty, but then he means amana, or means trustworthiness or infallibility, ma'asum. So we believe all of the prophets, they are ma'asum, and this meaning of amana here means to protection both inwardly and outwardly from what has been prohibited, both during their childhood and before their prophethood. So all of the prophets and messengers, even before they came into messengership or into prophethood, they were not known for anything, to be doing anything incorrect, so that includes any kind of, debauchery, any kind of shirk, or any of the things like that. So, and the stories of the prophets, when they talk about when they were young and, how they were honest, how they were intelligent, those kind of things. And so, for instance, outwardly, they never known of, zina or drinking wine or lying or any of those things. And then inwardly, they are not known for having hasad against anyone, or envy, arrogance, kibr, showing off on the yah. So these are inward traits that makes them ma'asum, that they don't have these traits. Okay. And so the next one he mentions is truthfulness, or sidq. And so the meaning of sidq, or that which corresponds with the reports of what has occurred. So, they were truthful to their word and to their deed and to their example and what they were calling to. All right. So sidq, truthfulness. And here's a statement I got from my notes. The scholar's name was Abu Ali al-Daqqaq. He died in the year 404 after Hijri, which is the year 1015 CE. He says truthfulness means being with other people in the same way as you consider yourself to be, or considering yourself to be as you are in yourself. All right, so that's true truthfulness, meaning like you're the same kind of person, inwardly and outwardly, privately and publicly, and that doesn't apply to us because we have masks, we have masks. And I put this statement here. Anybody know who this person was?
He was a scholar that knew the Maliki and the Shafi schools.
Yes, that's one. Yes, that's one. And he was also the teacher of
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question for who was what?
the person that we quoted this statement from, Abu Ali al-Daqqaq.
Okay.
All right. So he was a scholar about the Maliki and Shafi schools, and he was also the teacher of another famous scholar. Anybody heard of this book called the Risala al-Kushairi?
Yes.
Yes. Abu Ali al-Daqqaq was his teacher of Imam al-Qushayri. So he wrote a book that's called The Principles of Sufism. And this actually is translated in Arabic. And actually, Imam al-Qushayri had married his teacher's daughter. And also look at the year that he passed. He died the year, oh no, that's somebody else, I'm sorry. I was thinking he died a year before someone else, but I got the dates wrong. All right, so this is what truthfulness is. So this is one of the necessary attributes of the messengers, that they have sidq, truthfulness, and they have amana, they have trustworthiness. Right. The next one is, he used the English word sagacity. I don't know what that means, but he used it, the translation I have. But the Arabic word is fatana, or we also see the prophets attributed with aql, intelligence. So fatana means intelligence, or to be of sheer intelligence, keen mental discernment, reasoning, wisdom, and sound judgment that not fair surpasses, that far surpasses the ability of ordinary people, right? So that's what fatana is, another necessary attributes for all the prophets and messengers. And that they are also not known for any attributes of weakness or anything that people could blame them for. For instance, having coarse manners or physical defects, I was supposed to put bad behavior. All right. Okay, and now, Lon, did you need me to go back to the other page, or are you good? I kind of went kind of fast. But this is stuff we already kind of know. Did you all need me to go back there, or?
No, not right now.
Yeah, we're going to review it anyway. And so line 60 is the next line. And this is where Imam al-Laqqani says, وَمِثْلُ ذَا تَبْلِيغُهُمْ لِمَا أَتَوْا وَيَسْتَحِيلُ ضِدُّهَا كَمَا رَوَوْا. He says, and likewise, their conveyance of that which they brought is necessary. The opposite of these is impossible, as they have narrated. So this is the last line, Brother Isa. So I, appeal to you one more time to read the translation that you have.
Likewise, to convey everything they came with, and the opposite of these are impossible for them, as they have mentioned.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So here he's talking about another necessary attributes for the messengers, or the prophets and messenger, is conveying the message, which is called tabligh. So tabligh is a necessary attribute for prophets to convey what was revealed to them. And tabligh involves three areas, three categories. So when they have the message, like the revelation, they are under obligation to convey it, and they are not allowed to conceal anything, not even one letter. And then there's examples of they are under obligation to conceal and not permitted to reveal. And so that might be some type of ruling or something like that may be harmful to the person. And then they have either a choice to either reveal or conceal, and are permitted to reveal some and conceal the rest. And so here is an example of the story of Zayd and Zainab bin Jahsh. Do any of you know the story concerning that?
No.
When he told Zayd to keep her as his wife, he already knew some information about her.
Yeah, so Zayd is the adopted son of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so he had arranged for Zayd and Zainab to get married, and so it was a nice arrangement. And then after some time, Zayd, and so according to some reports, that Zayd for a few times was wanted to divorce her, and came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was telling him to keep her, but he had already received the revelation or received an inspiration that that he was going to marry like that. He knew that he knew that he was going to marry her, and he knew that Zayd was going to divorce her, but he didn't say to divorce her, so he concealed that. He said to keep her, so he was hoping that, just to see how it goes. And then when he divorced her, then he was, the Prophet ﷺ had concern about how it would look. But marrying someone of your freed slave or your adopted son is not the same as your biological son, because your biological son, of course, you can never marry the women that they married, right? And so the story goes. So the Prophet ﷺ, and another narration says that Zainab had wanted the Prophet ﷺ, he wanted to marry her. She wanted to marry him first. Did you ever hear that story?
This is not the one who her nikah was like performed by Allah. Is that the story or no?
Yeah, this is part of it. That
Okay.
the announcement of her marriage was by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay.
And so she had wanted to marry the Prophet ﷺ even before Zayd. And then Zayd was, he was having problems that he wanted to divorce her. And so he ended up divorcing her. But the Prophet ﷺ had already received an indication that he would be marrying her, but he didn't come right out and say it. So this is an example of the story of Zayd and Zainab, And the Prophet ﷺ, of course, was concerned about how it would look, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the revelation, correcting the whole situation. All right, so that's an example that you can be permitted to reveal and conceal some of what you know. But as far as a revelation, cannot conceal any part of it or anything that is truthful. And then there are other examples of the prophets, concealing certain things and not relaying certain messages, stuff like that. Okay. Let's see what else I got here. And so that we understand that these necessary attributes for the prophets, this is necessary for them to be prophets, and the opposite of them are impossible for them. So he mentions about the things that are mustahil for the prophets. So the opposite of amana is khiyana, treachery. So the opposites do not apply to the messengers. So if they have the maqam or the position of trust, then they cannot be treacherous. The opposite of truthfulness is lying. So the prophets, alayhimus salam, cannot be charged with lying, and they cannot have the opposite of fatana, which is ghafla, neglect or heedlessness, which is the opposite of intelligence or being aware, and kitman, concealment, the opposite of tabligh. All right, so these are the four necessary attributes of the messengers, and the opposites for them are impossible. All right, and it's the same like we mentioned when we talk about Allah's necessary attributes, that the blank of them are conceivable, and the blank of them are impossible.
The absence are inconceivable and the opposite is impossible.
Yes. So those same attributes, those necessary attributes that we have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the absence of them are inconceivable, and the opposite of them are impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the same ones for the messengers. All right, so that concludes.
When you said that, it kind of reminded me of with the Qawaris when they asked the question, when they were like, I think it was about the booty or the word booty, and they were like, be fair with it, and it was almost like he was almost making it seem like he was that Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was going to be dishonest with something.
Yes. So yeah, that could definitely be used as an example of accusing him, because the Prophet ﷺ said, if I'm not, he said something to the effect, ﷺ, that who else would be just if it's not me?
Yeah.
So, and they one of them said, "I'dilu ya Rasulullah, be just," and they was ready to take his head, and so the companion said, Messenger of Allah, ﷺ, should we not kill him? He said, no, don't kill him. So from his loins will come people who Islam will go through them like faster than an arrow goes through a bow. And what are their signs? That they will have, external looks of piety, big prostration marks, big beards, bald heads, short pants, and but Islam, they won't have the proper understanding of Islam, and so when people don't know this context, and then they are adopting some of these traits today. So, we see people in our areas, big beards, short pants, protruding prostration marks, worship, extensive worship, but then, it's nothing for them to spill the blood of another Muslim, or the backbite, or the slander, or, some of these things, so these are traits of the Khawarij, when we see them. And, in this area of Philadelphia, I mean, it ain't nothing for Muslims to spill another Muslim's blood, subhanAllah, or even, violate a Muslim's honor. And another trait of the Khawarij is to have the assault on the Muslims and to leave alone the disbelievers. And so, if you look at the establishment of Saudi Arabia, all of that fighting that they had, where they was purifying the lands from shirk, these are all Muslims they were fighting against. But guess who their allies are? You all know who their allies are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and now, even now, people, the assault is on the Muslims about what they're not doing right. But, you go into a establishment with non-Muslims, kuffar, and give them business and be nice to them, and not give salams to a Muslim, and all types of things. But that's another discussion for another time. So, any questions here for today's class?
No.
Okay.
No.
So inshallah, we won't have class next week because we'll be at this event in DC. And then the week after that, we'll go back from lines 51 up until 60 and do a little review. And then we'll continue in the book, inshallah ta'ala. And also, the last class, I forgot to upload it, so I don't know if you all were able to, well, those who were here, I think all of you are here in the class when we had like 3 weeks ago. All right, so and inshallah, we just continue till we finish. And the only way we'll miss class unless, if I'm traveling or something comes up, But inshallah, we look forward to finishing it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it, make it beneficial for us, and increase us in our understanding, our awareness, and make us among the Ahl inwardly and outwardly. Ameen.
Ameen.
Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.